Street Department. Achtung.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting for Tuesday, July 5th to order. Roll call, please, Terry.
Mary Kudowski.
Here.
Jim Allen.
Present.
Jake Krieger.
Here.
Mike Skippington.
Here.
Corey Campbell. She's remote.
Yeah,
And
she's on.
Gary Paul.
Here. Yeah, she's there.
And Kabaki is excused.
Okay, please stand for the pledge.
United States, one, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve, please.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Oh,
Motion
that's
carried. Action on the minutes from the regular meeting of June 7th.
Move to approve.
Well, second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state your name and address, limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel items cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody in the audience? We have nobody in the audience. Is there anybody on the virtual that would like to make any comments of items not on the agenda? Seeing nobody, we will move on. 7, action item 7A, action regarding comprehensive revision to Ashwaubenon sign ordinance, section 17-6-200, Ashwaubenon Municipal Code. Mr. Aaron.
All right, thank you. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read through the finer details of the revised sign code. From personal, professional experience, I can certainly say that sign codes are one of the hardest, most technical codes that anyone writes or tries to interpret. We started to undertake the revision to the sign code probably about a year ago now, and we finally have the draft before you. The initial impetus for the revision to the sign code was the 2015 U.S. Supreme Court case of Reed versus the town of Gilbert, where the Supreme Court, I guess really simplifying things, determined that if you have to read a sign in order to understand how to regulate it, your sign code is illegal. So basically, if you have a sign code that identifies how political signs should be regulated, or how
Church sign,
Yeah,
church
sure.
picnic sign.
right, all sorts of signs where if you look at, real estate signs, history signs, things like that, and those are considered content-based regulations and are no longer acceptable because there's a limitation on free speech. So again, it's very simplifying a very complex court case that came through. Our ordinance, beside that, that major issue, still needed a lot of improvements just in terms of the number of interpretations that we've taken over the years. It was important to codify those so that those interpretations are consistently made, long after I'm no longer in this seat. So the ordinance that you have before you, it is a strike-through copy that identifies all the changes. Just because something is struck through doesn't mean it was removed. It may have been moved within the ordinance to make it a little more readable. So I apologize if there's any trouble trying to follow the code with the number of changes that have happened, but it is a comprehensive revision to the sign code. So when it gets to the village board, this will be a repeal and replace of the sign code. Makes it the easiest instrument to deal with this number of changes. It did go to site plan review committee earlier late last month. They had a couple minor changes. They wanted to see the actual number of billboards in the community, and we have 16. Went out and counted those up. And therefore, if a billboard is taken down and not replaced, that number ratchets down over time. And they also wanted to allow for signage on mechanical screening similar to what was allowed for the Marina Circle office building on the river, where they have the Fincantieri and RBC Financial actually on the screening for the mechanicals. So those were the two items that they had, and went through it, made those changes. So the ordinance that you have, or the copy of before you, does have those changes included. It's certainly a big document, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So I talked with Aaron, because usually the most signs that I get questions about are the church picnic signs, political signs. None of those signs can go in the right-of-way,
Correct.
that I know. And Appleton is going through that, actually, if you just saw the news last week. They're doing a big promotion to have people know where their signs can and cannot go. So the ones that are on the screen, that screening that's up at the Marina Circle place, those cannot be the size of a billboard, right?
Correct. They have to follow the sign code.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought up temporary signs. There's a provision in the code that allows for people to have temporary signs. So for instance, congratulations, 2022 grad, that will be allowable, whereas right now it's not without a permit. We see those all over. We think it makes sense. There's a limitation on those in terms of time, and you can't have them up year-round. I believe it's 4 weeks. For political signs in your residential areas, under the new code, you can have up to 3 signs. Again, it's not a political sign, it's not a real estate sign, it's a sign. You can have up to 3 signs of a certain size in a yard, basically from the date the campaign season starts, as specified in state statute, through the time at which the campaign season ends, which I believe is 1 week after the campaign season. That's specified in state statute. That's how we can say you can have these signs during this time period. They could be political signs, they could be congrats grad, they could be, go Ashwaubenon. It's just a allowance for signs during that time period. So that's the real change in this code, is that we can only regulate signs, we cannot regulate content. Now that said, we still are allowed to regulate on and off premise signs. The Supreme Court actually just restated their support for the ability to regulate off-premise signage, which in our case are our billboards.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
I just want to add a comment. My concern was always people not knowing where to put signs. I think people that have good intents on whatever they use for a sign for, but you can't stick the darn thing on the curb thinking that's legal. I think you can go up our main drags in our community and find that every day. Here we go with an ordinance, it's not being policed. It's only done on complaint. So I think if this is somehow publicized in a letter through the water bill, or I know the park department adds some good features in it, but I'd like to see that get to the public somehow for those that would read it. A lot of people don't read much at all. They don't really care, but I think it's something they should care, because it's a part of the beautification of our community, rather than have signs stuck all over and have no meaning to it. So, Aaron, I know you spent a lot of time on this. It's funny what one sign can generate work for the rest of the United States, and we are a small part of that. So I thank you for your efforts as always. I hope we covered the bases. Like Aaron said, we did some things on the site plan that come up quite often, so I think we got those bases covered quite well, so. I just wish the people in our community would, if they have a question on it, call. It's a simple call. It's a simple answer when you get the question to the right person, so. If there's no other questions, I guess I would approve to pass it on to the board at our next board meeting.
I'll second it, but then I got a couple other comments.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the sign ordinance, the change to section 17-6-200 of municipal code. Okay.
Aaron, like the flags that we're seeing around, the political flags right now, they actually are stating about an election in 2024. Based on what you said, does that mean that those really aren't legal at this point?
The code is actually silent on flags.
Okay.
Trying to regulate flags is difficult, to say the least. And I guess as staff, we felt that leads us to a kind of a slippery slope as far as, okay, what flag is acceptable? And we didn't feel that we would be, in consultation with Patrick, our attorney, we'd be kind of on some shaky legal ground if we really tried to regulate those.
Okay.
The way we approach that is basically as kind of a good neighbor. We knock on the door, we say, we receive complaints about this, it's in a residential area, would you mind, taking it down, or do you want to hang it in your garage, or, in your basement, in your house? That's fine, but, we try to be cordial about it, understanding that we're somewhat limited in how we can actually enforce it.
Okay. The other comment is I agree with Gary as far as hitting this out. This might be something really nice to put into the newsletter, the one that's being published and pushed out. And maybe it's something that, we have. I think the best thing to do is to hit the area, not so much the individual public, but if you hit the nonprofit organizations, those are the ones that tend to put out a lot of the different signs. So if we hit the churches, we hit the different groups, I think that might be a way of doing it. So maybe it's just a matter of having some meet and greets with the different nonprofits within Ashwaubenon to make them understand the code. Then from there, it spreads out to all the people, because we need it, but I'm afraid that the message just gets diluted when you try to send it out within a blanket type of a format. So those are just a couple of my comments and a couple of my ideas. I don't know if that's a better way of getting it out there or not.
Something to add to your comment, you were headed in the right direction. We see a lot of signs in our community. We have good traffic in our area here. And we
Right.
see a lot of signs from other municipalities
Good point.
regarding whatever. It has nothing to do with our community.
Good point.
And it's a tough thing. You want to be a good neighbor, but,
Yeah.
and then, political signs really crank me a little bit, because if you put it up, the election's over, take the darn thing down. You see so many, and we're good locally, but we see so many state ones up that nobody bothers about. They just let them there till Mother Nature destroys them.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to make a comment on that. Having run a couple elections and seen and been through placement on the right of way of political signs, just randomly. I think one thing that could help, when you take out your candidacy papers to run at the county level, or even I believe in the village as well,
that's right.
there will be a packet with it that kind of gives you information. I think it would be helpful for the candidates, those who plead ignorance about it after they're caught, but also those who are unintentional in their decisions to take liberties with the laws in this regard. I think if you had that very well stated, how long that can be up, where it can be placed, and that they, also should, make sure that there are people living there as well. I've had that happen too. So you should really, we should really make sure that, especially with the political signs, and I agree with Gary, you want to be a good neighbor to the many nonprofits that support the village as well. So for those, but I think with political signs particularly, I think that would help to have a candidate packet that would very clearly state when they can be up, how long, and not in the right of ways.
Corey, if you go back to Nubs DeClean's era, that was brought out. We had people sticking signs all over. For some reason, it was corrected. People, or I should say maybe the authority
Aisha.
here, did go
Yeah.
back and have that all corrected, whosever property it was on. It was a hot
I remember
topic.
him doing that.
It
Yeah,
was a
I remember
hot
him doing
topic
that.
back then, yeah. And it
Yeah.
it kind of stayed okay for a while, but now we're losing that. So I think
Yeah.
what you said is very right. It should be included in the packet if you're taking out nomination papers.
Yeah.
I do just want to bring one thing up, though, in terms of campaign signs. Again, we regulate signs. We won't regulate content. So
Right.
if someone has a sign up that says Smith for president, and it's part of their allowable number of signs that they can have, just like a congrats 2022 Ashwaubenon grad sign, they by right can have that. Of course, any sign is
Yep.
limited to the number and the
Yep.
time, the duration, but I just want to make sure it's clear that, that political.
It's not
campaign-
content. Yeah.
Right, that they won't be up just during that campaign season. If someone wanted to,
Correct.
they could have it up outside of that time period, but that counts against their number of signs that they can have in their
Signs, yeah.
yard.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of the confusion comes in. I'm not talking about the content of the sign. I'm talking about the placement of it. You'll see them, people who kind of sort of plead ignorance about the fact they don't know that the sign shouldn't be in the middle of the median. And they place their signs in the medians in Ashwaubenon, and they do it at the last minute. And then when you call to get them pulled out, they've been up for that long. I mean, the police don't have time to go, be lifting up signs that people deliberately are putting up in the medians. So, I think one thing that we do have to specify is that you're not going to be putting up signs in our medians anymore, because it makes the village look like they're supporting that candidate then, so you have to be careful with that as well. So I'm glad that, that we're doing this. I think it will definitely clear up some, but there'll be more clarification on it. But having been through it myself on a couple of occasions with, that kind of incident happening with candidates, you have to be very clear with them as to, this is a no-no in the village.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend approval. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 8, items for next agenda. Do we have a next agenda so far?
Not yet, but knowing how things work here in the village, I would anticipate it.
Okay. Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.